I'm Steve Nolan. I'm a lecturer in economics at Liverpool John Eures University and an associate member at the Centre in Dynamics of Ethnicity. The work we've been looking at is on how inequalities in the labour market for ethnic minority people are related to their previous education and the choices they make as they come to the end of compulsory schooling. The main areas we're interested in looking at are the effect of the apprenticeship programme on ethnic minority people, and also the impact of COVID-19 on unemployment in young people of ethnic minority background in general and graduates specifically.
My name's Sandra Kerr, and I'm the Race Equality Director at Business in the Community. And what I do, I work with employers from the public and private sector, really who know that race equality in the UK makes business sense, it's good for the economy, to really help them with the policies and practices that they need to engage in their organisation so that talent from all backgrounds can not only get access to work, but can progress in the workplace as well.
My name is Siobhan Gates. I'm an Evidence and Evaluation Manager at Youth Futures Foundation. Youth Futures Foundation was set up about 2 years ago now, and we work towards tackling inequality in employment for young people and youth unemployment as a kind of long-term issue, trying to tackle that.
In general, there's a growing trend for black and ethnic minority young people to head towards university. Participation rates are much higher than with their white counterparts. This is obviously good news, but there's still a level of underrepresentation at some of the more prestigious universities. And this is a gap that can't just be explained by entry qualification levels alone. So obviously lack of access on average to these higher institutions is going to have some limitation in labour market outcomes further down the line.
Well, my name's Mubarak. I'm an infrastructure technician at an investment bank in Canary Wharf. I was originally a university student at Brighton Uni. I was studying engineering, but I really didn't like the experience of doing the day-to-day of university, so I thought I needed to get hands-on experience, so I chose an apprenticeship. With an apprenticeship, it allowed me to be able to actually experience working inside the role, because when you apply for different jobs, you're asked to have experience or day-to-day knowledge of the entire environment. So doing an apprenticeship allowed me to get my foot into the door to be able to actually experience it.
In terms of the apprenticeship programme, there's actually some positive news recently in terms of starting apprenticeship programmes. Ethnic minorities now make up 13.4% of all starts, and that's an increase that follows a government programme to increase representation of underrepresented groups. Of course, starting an apprenticeship programme but failing to finish it is of limited value, and in there the statistics are slightly more worrying. Overall, whites are overrepresented in terms of apprenticeship starts, and their dropout rate is lower than that of ethnic minority groups in all the sectors from industry that engage with the apprenticeship programme, with the exception of leisure, travel and tourism.
My name is Rita Mwanza. I graduated this year. I studied law, and now I'm currently working as a scheme support officer. When it came to my expectations, I wasn't too sure. I wanted to either be a solicitor or barrister, but wanted to use the degree as time to think about it. During that time, I was leaning towards becoming a solicitor because I thought the environment would be more suitable for myself compared to working as a barrister. But in the end, I moved away from working within the law completely. The main reasons why I moved away from pursuing a career as a solicitor or barrister or working within the strict legal realm was because I didn't feel that the environment suited myself personally, and the way in which people develop within their career was not a path that I wanted to take. I also felt that I didn't really consider how long it would take to finally qualify, and also the costs involved. But personally, I think that was also due to the lack of further support in thinking, oh, you want to be a solicitor or a barrister, just so you know, you can't just do a 3-year course and then be done with it. It takes years and years to sometimes even get into entry-level positions or even secure the experience necessary.
There are particular issues that young people who are Black or from minority ethnic backgrounds face, facing issues of racism in the workplace. And it can be really small things. So, the way that a job advert is written might not be written in language that's accessible to that young person, or it might not be placed in in a location that they might go and look. And then in the recruitment process, you face biases from the recruitment panel. And then there's issues around things like skills pipelines. So, young people going into education, getting a skill or, getting a degree, and then not knowing then what to do with that and not having anyone to ask and support them going forward. And all of these things are exacerbated by things like racism, also class, and the way that intersects it creates additional challenges for young people.
In general, ethnic minority graduates face a higher chance of unemployment than their white counterparts, and that increased markedly in the last serious recession back in 2008. At its height, the probability of being unemployed was almost 3 times higher for ethnic minority people compared to their white counterparts. Now, the story for COVID, we're seeing increased rates for both groups, but it seems like unemployment is rising at a higher rate for ethnic minority graduates.
So the types of challenges that young people have faced because of COVID in employment, it's just really exacerbated all of the barriers that you'd normally see with getting into employment. There's been high rates across young people of unemployment. That's something that's far greater for Black young people, Asian young people. We've also seen this trend kind of coming out of the pandemic where there's higher rates of young people in full-time education. Now, we've not kind of seen what the impact of that is yet because they're currently in education, but if we think of things like the skills pipeline and young people not knowing what to do post-education or not having the support to get on in work, we're just going to see more of that for young people. And that's, as I said, that's kind of across the board for young people.
What companies need to do to allow young Black people and minority groups to join apprenticeship? It's not my idea, but it's an idea I've seen before where you drop in a blind CV where you're not adding people's names or ethnicity in the application for the jobs, or going to different backgrounds, going to secondary schools in areas where it's predominantly Black or minority regions, speaking to them, bringing people in that have experienced it before to speak to them, to tell them that is an option. Because with me, I thought my only option after finishing sixth form was university or bus.
So there's a range of different policy solutions, and I think, and then specifically for Black and minoritized ethnic young people, there should be solutions that are specifically targeted for them. We see this kind of across employment even, where there will be kind of schemes that are, schemes that are for women, schemes that are for young people, and then everyone has access, so it doesn't actually then really level the playing field, right? Because you need some targeted support. So if there's something targeted for young people, there should also be something specifically for ethnic minority young people who face, a unique set of barriers, additional barriers that cannot be overcome just by having these kind of, these blanket policies for all young people are a help for sure, as definite kind of making some progress. But I think for me, that's the kind of real change that needs to be made, is that there needs to be policy solutions that have some longevity to them, that are not just for like a year, not just for 6 months, that's something that's long term in addition to what exists at the moment, because otherwise we're just going to keep going around in circles again, and the problem's not going to be resolved.
the government can do a lot more to support individuals and organizations and schools, provide experiences, the confidence and the funding for Black or minority ethnic individuals that want to further pursue a legal career. I do see a lot of that work being done by, Black solicitors and barristers themselves.
One of the things we have been doing as an organisation is working with employers to get a commitment to sign up to the Race at Work Charter. And the fifth commitment is about progressing talent, and that's linked to recruitment and progression. And we're asking employers, and what we're seeing, we're really asking them to think about inclusion in the design. So the pre-application work, what they're doing to ensure that people who are going to apply to them for jobs have got and a good understanding of what the organization does and what the role might require, particularly where they know there's not a lot of role models in that industry would be available to talk to young people. We are big advocates of making sure that every part of the process is monitored. So the attraction, to look at, are you even getting the applications from different people coming through the doors? Then actually the SIFT process, and we're really encouraging employers to ensure where possible, they have diverse people around the SIFT table, as well as the interviews, to ensure there's not a disproportionate dropout rate of applicants. So if you've got the applicants and they don't seem to be able to get through, we're encouraging employers to monitor that, and also ensuring where possible they've got Black people specifically and ethnic minority people at that part of the interview process. There is evidence we know from the Royal Society that actually more diverse groups make better decisions. So we know that this causes people to slow down, to look at the criteria and not make snap judgments and not buy into stereotypes about young people. So that really matters, about having those people around the table who are able to challenge perception, but also encourage the young person, if they come to the table and see somebody like them in the room, they realize the employer must be serious about this. And then the follow through, I think, when they join the organization, ensure that the induction is done well, where possible, attach a buddy to them, somebody who can help them to orientate and understand some of the challenges and understand the organization. And then transparency about what the career opportunities are. So what does the ladder look like? What are the next steps, and what would an individual need to do to be able to progress? So those things I think are really important, that employers embed these actions, and we are actively supporting them to do that.
We also need the government to say, we want you, we need you, we see you. That's the whole point, We vote in the government for, the good of us as individuals and the development of our country, not just now, but for the future too.
Over the last 2 decades, there have been 78 recommendations from 3 government inquiries based around race and ethnicity. But the implementation of those recommendations has been patchy at best, and it's this implementation gap that needs to be closed. We know that there are ethnic gaps in terms of labour market and education. This is not news. What needs to be done now, what the government needs to do, is keep the race and ethnicity agenda at the front of people's mind. Find out what works and roll these programs out strategically through both the labour market and the education system. To that end, we kind of propose that in terms of apprenticeship programs, those on the decision-making boards, including employer groups, have a good representation from ethnic minority groups. We also propose that universities, especially the good ones, work hard on widening participation rates and also ensuring fair outcomes across both race and ethnicity groups. And finally, we look for some targeted support for graduates in what is going to be a very tough labour market going forward. This needs to be done from employers and also on the side of higher education institutions.